Okay. Looks like I got to use my school teacher voice today. Good morning, Unity East. Here we are on another beautiful Sunday morning.
Good morning, Anita.
Glad to see so many faces here. Today our minister she's small, but she is dynamic. Our Reverend Anita Koch. And our wonderful accompanist is Marina. And today we have the UEC choir with us today. Our opening hymn is number 1, if you'd like to turn to that in your hymnal.
My house becomes a home when filled with people I love and care for. My financial resources don't diminish, but multiply when I share them generously. As I look beyond the good things in my life to the love that created inside and the limitless flow of divine ideas that brought them into manifestation, I discover true abundance. That is, the riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and prosperity. Proverbs 8:18.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, now's the time when we remember those people that need prayer the most, and that maybe they couldn't make it here, or maybe for whatever reason they're just not feeling that well. Now is the time to remember them. So let's take a couple minutes and just think of them in your prayers. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to remember them.
God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
And at this time, it's usually labeled congregational response. These are words that I personally use before we go into the message to help me remember that I am simply a vessel, as we all are. So at this time, let us sing together the congregational response. Well, as you can see in your bulletin, today's message is entitled In the Flow. And that's kind of what we had to be this morning, right? Things don't always go the way we expect them to. And today was just a wonderful example, and to me, it was a wonderful example of how much better life works when we just go with the flow. I mean, I have been in situations where if someone was experiencing what we were experiencing this morning, there would have been a lot of angry people. And I didn't see anyone lose their cool. Everyone was fine. Everyone was happy. Everything is good. And that's because we know that we live these truths. That God is good all the time. All things work together for our highest good. And of course, for me, I had just a little bit of extra tension this morning because my mentor minister, Reverend Ron Scott, and his beautiful wife, Reverend Lenore Scott, are here this morning to observe me. So, you know what? It's all good. It's great. And speaking of being in the flow, what about today's message in the Daily Word? It actually says right here in black and white, as I look beyond the good things in my life to the love, the creative insight, and the limitless divine flow of divine ideas that brought them into manifestation, I discover true abundance. So, all things work together. I mean, when we are in the flow, actually we're always in the flow. Because there is a limitless flow of divine ideas, just like it says in the Daily Word, all the time. And all we have to do is look for those divine ideas, plug in to the flow. It's there. And I have I read a lot. One of my favorite authors is Eric Butterworth. And Eric Butterworth was actually in the Detroit area. He was the founder of Detroit Unity Temple. And he was an excellent speaker and writer. And he explained to me, for me, Eric explains things in a way that is easily understandable. And he's in his first chapter of this beautiful book, highly recommend it, he says that life is lived from the within out. So it isn't what's going on out there. It isn't that the sound system isn't working the way we expected it to because our music director isn't here and we're doing a new song and all these things are going on. That stuff happens. It happens all the time. It's part of life. However, when we are in the flow, we know that it's okay because it's not what's going on out there that's important. What's important is what's going on in here and how we respond to what's going on out there. Because when we respond in such a way that we say, God is good all the time, I can deal with this. It's okay. We deal with it. We handle it. We manage it without any problem whatsoever. And happiness, success, prosperity, all the good things that everyone wants in life, they don't come from your job or your bank account. They come from within. And when they come from within, then the right and perfect job shows up. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago about my daughter who's been in corporate America for years, and there is still there are not as many women in the executive offices as there are men. It's just a fact of life. We can debate that issue another time. However, when you are in the flow, and my daughter's been raised on these principles. She went to YOU and Sunday school at church today, and when she was a teenager, she went kicking and screaming a lot of the time. But still, those principles have been absorbed into her being. And she knows that life is lived from the inside out. So she does a great job. She does her job enthusiastically, and as a result, she will be starting a new job with the company that her former boss left and went to, and called her up and said, we have a vice president position available, and I'd like you to come and fill it. And after some negotiation, which my daughter's a pretty good negotiator, way better than her mom, because I don't negotiate with my daughter because she always wins. So she's negotiated this wonderful career change with this title. And the way she explained it to me is, Mom, now that I have this title, in 3 to 5 years, because she went from a bigger company to a smaller company. She said, in 3 to 5 years, I can go to a bigger company and walk right into a vice president position if I choose to. And that's the way things work when we're in the flow. We are, just as that statement of being that I love so dearly. I learned that back in church today, when Jack Boland would bring in all of these wonderful people, and I learned and memorized, but it's more than memorization. You know, you can memorize 1 + 1 is 2, but when it becomes automatic, that I am an individualized expression of God, how important is that to our lives? What a difference it makes when we realize we aren't tied to these bodies. And you know, this year has been a tough year for the Koch family. We've lost a couple of people that were very, very significant. I mean, Mike's mom was 97 years old, and she was an absolutely amazing human being. And as much as everyone knew, my
physical being leaves a hole in our hearts. And still, to this day, and I don't think it'll ever change, but one of the things that happened as a result of losing Mom was we inherited Mom's car, which was nice because we've been doing fine with one car for many years. But that's today. We're just so you know, at about 11:45 there's going to be a Unity 101 class, and guess who the instructor is? So you all get to come. Anyone who would choose to. But that car, even though it's now technically Mike's and my car, it's always going to be Mom's car. It's always going to be Mom's car. Because even after she stopped driving, she said, well, we're like, Mom, should we get rid of the car? She said, no, that's my car. And every time, if Mike took her to the doctor, which he did on a regular basis, he would drive over to her house in our car, and then when we got there, Mom said, you're taking my car. We always took Mom's car. If somebody needed to be picked up at the airport, because they were coming in to visit Mom, what car are you going to take? Oh, well, we'll take Mom's car. I mean, so it's always going to be Mom's car. So yes, her presence, physical presence isn't here, but her presence is here. It's here in so many ways. I mean, I see it in her children. I see Mom's presence in the way my husband has stepped into this role of taking care of the kids. He comes from a family of 9 children, and every week, every one of those children called Mom. And they're spread all over the country. There was one in California, one in Colorado, one in New Mexico, one in Kentucky. They're all over the place. Without fail, every Sunday, every one of them contacted Mom. Well, that can't happen anymore. But still, every Sunday, Mike doesn't contact every single one of his siblings, no. But he does, in fact, make sure that he contacts at least one of them. So that family unity, that connection, that presence of Mom still lives. I see it living in her son all the time. I see it living in his other siblings that do so many things for each other. I mean, we wouldn't have Mom's car. I mean, there were 8 of the 9 siblings left, and that car belonged to all of them. And all of them said, Mike and Anita need an extra car. Let's give it to them. A gift. They didn't have to do that. But that's Mom. That's Mom's presence. That flow happens because there is a presence and power that lives in, through, and as each one of us, whether we're here or not. Just because that physical body is gone, that doesn't mean that presence is gone. That presence is here. It lives. And it lives in the children. It lives in the message that they lived, the message that they were to the world and continue to be. There was a story in the Eric Butterworth book that tells about a gentleman by the name of Tom. He was older, and he'd been with his company for 30 plus years. And But this day, he was sitting at his desk, and he was brooding, close to tears. He was feeling very useless and completely washed up because his company had downsized, and guess who got let go? Tom, the older guy. And he was just, how could they do this to me after I've worked so hard for them for so many years? And they know, they have to know how difficult it is for a person of my age to find a new career at this time in my life. They have to know that. Why did they do this to me? And as he's sitting there and he looks on his desk, there's a little spider crawling across the desk, and he just sweeps it away. And then he noticed that instead of falling and floundering, the little spider just very calmly spun up a beautiful little web and lowered itself to the ground and just crawled off and went on his merry way. And after seeing that, Tom thought to himself, well, side point, a very important side point, Tom had been studying truth principles a number of years. He'd been attending a church where the God is, I am, I think, I pray, I live. And he looked at that spider and thought to himself, if that little lowly spider can recover like that from a traumatic situation like me brushing it off the desk, why can't I, an individualized expression of God, do at least that or more? So he packed up his desk and he left. And he went home and he prayed and he meditated and he thought, I need guidance. What is it that I should be doing? I need direction. So he prayed and he listened, and finally it came to him. Well, Tom, you've always loved to write. You've always said you want to do something with it, but you never had the time. Guess what you have now? So he said, let me try that. So he started writing some articles and submitted it to the local newspaper, and then he submitted some to magazines, and he wrote some opinion pieces, and he wrote some poetry, and he wrote and he wrote and he wrote and he wrote. And then he started submitting some of what he had written and got paid. And you know, within the first year after Tom was let go from his job, he was making enough income from what he was writing plus his retirement that he was actually more financially successful retired than he was when he was working full time. And that's the way it works. That's the way it is when we are in the flow. Now, a few years ago, I had to have a stent. And do you know why people have to have stents? Because there's blockage. There was plaque that had built up in one of the arteries of my heart, which meant that I wasn't getting the nutrients and the blood and everything that my body needed in the right quantity. And sometimes, did you know that we have mental plaque? Yeah. And that mental plaque is the stuff that's been stuck in the back of our minds for years. Some of it we don't even remember there. I mean, it could be something from our childhood. I grew up in a house where, I don't know about your house, but in my house, money did not grow on trees. And so I was always of a mindset that abundance did not come easily. You had to work really hard. You had to put your nose to the grindstone kind of stuff. So I started speaking in Unity churches back in 2014. And I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm not that young. So in 2014, I started speaking in Unity churches, and I love this stuff, you guys. I mean, I love it. I love what Unity teachings have done for my life, and I love the fact that I can share it with all of you. And so I started speaking in one Unity church, and then another, and then another, and then another, and then time went by. And over the years, people started saying, "Oh, I am so glad you're a Unity minister." I'm like, "Oh, no, not a Unity minister. That's, to be a Unity minister, you gotta go to school for like 4 years, you gotta pay for all these classes, it's a lot of work, I'm too old, I can't afford it, blah, 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 blah. I had excuses galore." And guess what? I had some mental plaque I needed to clear out. And there wasn't a physician other than the physician that walks around inside each one of us that could help me with that. And finally, it occurred to me that those excuses were simply that, excuses. And so now I'm blessed to be in the mentorship portion, the internship portion of my ministerial training. And soon, next year I'll be graduating. So, we have to work. We have to use the principles. And so one of the affirmations I continue to work on, the abundance thing. I mean, how much better can it get than, a free car and all this other stuff? And I still, every once in a while, find myself saying, "Oh, I can't." And there's these things called denials and affirmations. So I have one for my abundance mentality that I continue to work on. I stand firm in my faith that all my needs are already fulfilled. I look past any appearance otherwise and recognize the truth that the divine is my source and supply. And as you know, we've added an abundance affirmation to our message to what we say when we give our tithes and offerings here at Unity East. And the purpose of these affirmations isn't to try to make something happen. It's to help us to remember that flow that is always with us, working in us, through us, as us. And we just have to make sure that we remember. And if there's any mental plaque in the way that's slowing down the flow or blocking the flow, that we clear it out. And back in 1950, anybody remember the Ann Landers column? Yeah, just about everybody, right? Well, back in 1954, Ann Landers was like huge. And a woman by the name of Eppie Lederer had just moved. Her husband was an executive, and they had lived in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And Eppie was very involved with her community affairs, and she knew everybody, and everybody knew her. happy, life was good. And then they moved to Chicago, where she knew no one, and it was a big city, and she didn't know what to do with herself. And she loved reading Anlanders, and she just thought that the responses that were given by Anlanders were so down to earth, and she really liked them. And she was reading the column one day, and she read some fine print at the bottom, and it said that every letter that came into Anlanders was read and answered, whether it was published or not. And so Effie thought to herself, well, Ann Landers can't do that all by herself. She must need some help. And so she decided that that's what she would do. She would help Ann Landers respond to all these letters she was getting. Well, since her husband was an executive, he knew a lot of people, and he knew someone who worked at the newspaper where Ann Landers was published. And so she, sweet-talked her husband and got her to introduce her to this gentleman by the name of, I don't remember, Will something or another. And so she spoke to Will, and she said, Will, I'm so glad I got to meet you because I'm going to help you out. And he said, you're going to help me out? Oh, yeah. You know, your Ann Landers column is so popular, and I understand that she responds to every letter, and there's no way that she can do it by herself. She needs some help. And he said, what? And she repeated herself, and he said, wait a minute. There's no way we could have known. But the woman who writes the Ann Landers column has just passed. There is no Ann Landers at this moment. And Abby said, really? Oh, well, then I guess it's even more fortunate that I called you. And he's like, what are you saying? She said, well, I will be your new Ann Landers. And he said, Abby, you seem like a really nice lady, but from what your husband tells me, you have no experience as a writer, you have no experience as a psychologist. There's no way that we could give you this job. We are syndicated in 40 newspapers across the country. This is a huge job. Thank you, but I don't think so. Well, Abby was undeterred. And she said, well, how are you going to be choosing your new Ann Landers? He said, well, we are going to do it by a competition. And we have a number of people we've already asked to enter this competition, and they will be answering letters anonymously, and then based on what kind of response we get from their letters, we're going to make our decision. We're going to narrow it down and we'll make our decision. And she said, well, can I enter the competition? So we thought, well, okay, here's a lady with no experience, she's got no background in this. What's it gonna hurt? So he said, sure, Abby, you can enter the competition, thinking that there was no way in the world that this woman would stand a chance. So she entered the competition. She was actually pretty good at doing these responses. And then she did something that Ann Landers didn't do. She did some extra research and got expert advice from psychologists, from scientists, from the experts in whatever field the question was regarding, and she added that little bit of expertise in reference to what was from into her column. And as they narrowed down the people that were competing for this spot, guess who won? Of course, it was Effie. Effie Lederer. years, it did last. And Eppie Lederer became the voice of Ann Landers and lasted for 47 years. Eppie was in the flow. And that's what happens. God is good all the time. There are things that the divine is capable of doing that we would never dream to be possible. The universe has a way of making things work together for our highest good. Jesus even said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Or he could have said, "The truth will put you in the flow." Because when we're in the flow, we are connecting with that consciousness that is within. We are connecting our human minds with divine mind. And just like it says in today's daily word, the limitless flow of divine ideas. And everything comes from an idea, right? It all begins in mind. And when we connect to that limitless flow, to that divine beingness that is omniscient, all knowledge, omnipresent, everywhere and always present, and omnipotence, all powerful. When we remember that we are individualized expressions of that oneness, then we are truly in the flow. Namaste. And now what I'd like you to do is take what you've heard and really absorb it. We're going to go into a meditation. And so let's settle ourselves. Close your eyes if you wish. Relax. Put your feet flat on the floor. Put your hands comfortably in your lap. And feel that flow moving through you. There's an energy. There's a presence. There's a power that moves through you and as you. It is the energy, it is the power and presence that beats our hearts, that breathes the air into and out from our lungs. Even when we feel like we are completely still, that movement, that energy, that flow is always there. So open yourself as fully as you can to that flow, to that energy, and allow it. Allow it to be in you. We are each individualized expressions of the one. And as we feel this flow of energy, this light and this love, this presence throughout our entire being, we know that we are one. And tell yourself, I am one with the divine. And in this shrine of silence, let us spend a few moments and really connect that presence and power, that oneness. presence, we are so thankful for all of the goodness that is in our lives. We know that presence and power is divine. And it is us. It is moving, breathing our bodies. And when we leave these bodies, it will still be who we really are. We are filled with thoughts and feelings, and we know these thoughts and feelings become our words, become our actions. And we are so grateful that we know that our lives are lived from the inside out. That presence and power flows through us and outward from us in such a way that we can bless not only our own lives, but the lives of those we touch. We are so grateful for all we learn, all we have, all we do, and all we give. And we are each growing every day, every moment, to be happier, more successful, more peaceful, and more loving people. And it is so. And together we all say, Amen. Amen. for us to give back. Because just as Unity has given so much to me, I think it's given a little bit to all of you too. And so we take this time to share our tithes and offerings while our wonderful Unity East choir shares with us another beautiful song. So let's take our tithes and offerings in our hands, and remember there's a little extra.
Divine love as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
I give joyfully and easily, for the universe is my source, and abundance is my nature. Thank you.
see, we have Unity membership class immediately after, not immediately, actually it's 11:45 after fellowship. This is Unity 101 class for new and current members. See Reverend Anita for any information. This is a good class, even though you've been with Unity for a while. It's like a refresher course. Things change, from time to time, so it's good to keep current. The annual membership meeting is next Sunday after service. Also, don't forget about the effective prayer for today's times, which are Friday, November 11th and 18th. This is a Zoom class with Reverend Anita. Also, Linda, correct me if I'm wrong. We need help moving some of the furniture for the cleaners? No, we don't have to do that? Okay, great. Also, don't forget to sign up for snacks and goodies for the following Sunday. Okay. We could circle up for the peace song and our prayer for protection.
Protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Everybody have a great week.